Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, an entitled HOA Karen freaks out on me because I have the audacity to ride my electric wheelchair around the neighborhood. She called the cops on me claiming that I am a nuisance and not supposed to be there. This entitled homeowner association lady hates disabled people and I honestly could not be more upset. Here is what happened. So I am disabled and I use an electric wheelchair to get around. I was born with a birth defect that makes it so that I cannot walk and I have little strength in my muscles. This is one reason that I use an electric wheelchair instead of a manual one. I cannot physically use my arms enough to push the chair. That point aside, I really enjoy taking walks around the neighborhood on nice days. It's a pretty area and people have flowers and walk their dogs around. We got sidewalks that all have ramps, so getting on and off of them when I want to cross the street is really easy for me. Some places are not super accessible, so living in a place where I can get around is almost like a blessing. It would be perfect, except that I live in an HOA and one of the members in charge is a huge Karen to everybody. And sadly, that includes me. She always complains that I should not own a home and that I just sit around and take money from the government. Fun fact, not all disabled people get benefits, a lot of us work for a living. I work from home on the computer doing accounting. Being independent was not something doctors always thought I could do, so the fact that I have my own home can be amazing. I need help and have nurses and aides for certain tasks, but other than that, I do everything myself. Karen decided though that I am a burden on the taxpayer and no matter what I tell her, that's never gonna change. Once she tried telling me that the HOA rules dictated that I was not allowed to be out of my home during certain hours. Curfews do exist to my knowledge, but this one had it so that I could only go outside in the middle of the night basically. When confronted about it and told off, she could only vaguely wave to gesture me and the chair and say, "No prospective buyer wants to see that." I of course was offended and wished I could do something at that moment. Sadly, being ableist while wrong is not a crime by itself. She thinks she knows the law though, because one day she called the police on me while I was going on my trip around the neighborhood. She called saying that there was a vehicle on the sidewalk and I was running over kids and dogs. They assumed it was a car and sent over a ton of police, while Karen was just smiling like she had won a lifetime supply of blonde hair dye. The police were understandably confused and looking for a car that did not really exist, so Karen filled them in. Karen, she goes on the sidewalk with that thing, all during the day. She scares away children and all the prospective home buyers. You have to arrest her and make her stay indoors during this time of day. Police, we were called about a vehicle running over kids and dogs though. Is that not true? Karen, well, I'm sure she has run over them before. That thing cannot be legal for the sidewalk. Police, actually her riding in the street would be more of an issue. The maximum speed is so low that it would back up cars and she could get hurt. The sidewalk is the ideal place for her to be. Karen, but she is hurting and scaring people. Me, I've never run over anything except maybe sticks. This whole thing is ridiculous. Karen, if you won't arrest her, then I will just have to give her an HOA fine. No motors on the sidewalk allowed. The police apologized to me before leaving and warning Karen that it would be a good idea to leave me alone. Of course, she did not listen, and I decided instead that if I want to change, I was gonna have to make it happen. I decided to run for a spot on the HOA board, which would be an interesting story of change and inspiration, but instead it became a huge mess. Karen did not want me to be on the HOA board and finally slipped up saying something I could use against her. She told me that she would never let a disabled idiot be part of the HOA. That she would not even let my name get on a ballot, a threat which she actually made good on when it was time to elect for new board members. It was not my original plan, but now I had Karen in a situation where I could get her in a ton of trouble. For those that don't know what the ADA is, it basically says that you cannot discriminate against disabled people and have to give them equal opportunity. This does not just refer to employers, but basically anything that is not just personal. Since the HOA is an organization not allowing me to run despite meeting all the qualifications, meaning Karen was in clear violation of the act. So then I got a lawyer and sued her and the HOA for causing all this trouble. With me being able to give her direct quotes of saying that she wasn't gonna let me on the ballot because I was disabled. At the point of getting served for court, suddenly the tune of Karen changed. Nothing from her directly, but through the HOA, which I knew was just her hiding behind the organization. apologizing for the mistake and saying that if I wanted to try again next year, they would make sure no filing mistakes happened. Yeah, they were claiming it was a filing mistake, which is clearly a cover-up. They wanted to say anything in order for me to drop the case. I was not gonna fall for that kind of crap. I had my lawyer send them a letter to stop contacting me to drop the case, or we would add harassment to the case. And finally, it worked. I did not hear from them until court. I told the judge what Karen said to me when I decided to run for the HOA board. I also explained to her why I wanted to run for the board, to stop the ableism that I had been suffering from in case it was happening to anybody else. The HOA keeps records, and it clearly shows a record that I had submitted the paperwork needed but was just never added to the ballot. Karen had excuses about it being a mistake, but funnily enough, the other HOA board members did not want to get involved with this mess. They admitted that Karen told them she was not putting me on the ballot and threatened them to not say anything. I have no idea if it was 100% on Karen, but she got thrown under the bus completely for the violations. Here in the United States, messing with ADA law is a pretty big deal, and most judges will not go easy if you are found guilty of it. Of course, Karen did not really have a defense, and the prior police incident did not help make it seem like an accident, and instead a direct act of discrimination against me for my disability. The HOA got hit with a ton of fines, and Karen got hit with a small personal one too. It was also declared that a new vote had to be held, and this is where it gets funny. Now, after all of this, I did not want to be on the HOA board anymore, but the situation got the attention of a lot of people in the neighborhood. Karen and a couple of other people decided to step down, meaning there were more spots just wide open for the taking. While I wanted to give it a try, one of the people, a man that's also disabled, ended up running and taking a spot on the HOA board. He didn't want to get discriminated against either and was gonna make sure that everybody living here could hopefully get treated equally from now on. And yeah, ripe stars, I gotta say, it is just sad to see discrimination against disabled people in the 21st century. But then again, I would expect nothing else from power-hungry, entitled HOA Karens. Either way, if you enjoy the HOA stories, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even leave a comment. Thank you so much. The next one is titled, They Wanted My Pool. So a little bit of context, my father is really good in stocks, and he bought shares in the right places a while back. Later on, the stocks blew up, making us rich. We have moved to a good neighborhood in a house with a pool, and my dad bought a Jeep Wrangler, and we are all well off. Now we have the best house in the neighborhood, one of the 4 which actually have a pool. Right next to ours is a fairly small house with a very small backyard, and living in it is a family with 3 kids who are tenants. They are super entitled. The very first day of our pool being filled up, they helped their 3 kids climb up the fence, did the same themselves, and started to use our pool. When me and my twin brother went to the pool, we were shocked to see random people using our pool. We told our parents, and the conversation between them went as such. Dad, hello, can you please tell me who allowed you to use the pool? Ed, not knowing that we own this house, oh, we are good friends with the owner. He lets us use it when he is not around. Dad, oh, I must be mistaken because as far as I can remember, we own this house. Pulls out the keys. Ed, well, you were not using this when we got here, so you have to wait now. Dad, expression saying, is this dude for real? Sir, the door is locked, there's no back door, so you probably climbed the fence, which is trespassing, so I can get you arrested. So before this escalates to that point, I would suggest you to leave. Ed, well, you have no proof. Dad points to the camera. You were saying? Ed, just let the kids swim, they really want to. Dad, ma'am, there's a community pool nearby, you can go there with your kids. Ed, no, there's too many people there. Dad, ma'am, sir, please leave or we will call the police. Ed, fine, we are leaving. We had to clean the pool again as the kids had wet dirt on their feet and one of the kids peed in the pool. How do we know, you ask? Well, he was standing outside the pool and peed in it. And he was caught on camera. Seriously unbelievable. And yeah, ripe stars, if some random entitled people would suddenly come into your backyard and use your pool, what would you do? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is titled, Fraudulent tow company. So I killed an entire tow company with one phone call. Here's how the story goes. Several years back, I went to work for a towing company. It's about all I know how to do other than paint cars, which is drastically affecting my health. The pay was pretty decent, but we had to share trucks, and the boss felt that he knew where we needed to sit in order to get the best calls. This is important for later. Several months in, I realized that I was not making the type of money that I should be making. So I took the opportunity while I was sitting in a parking lot one evening to start researching the laws pertaining to employees in similar positions. He was kind of an a-hole, and the trucks had transponders so that he could see if we had them idling with the air conditioner on and on a hot day, or idling with the heat on a cold day. He was always calling complaining about something if the wheels were not turning. So during my research I discovered that if he was requiring us to sit in a certain parking lot, street or any location of his choosing, then we were entitled to be paid an hourly wage, not just our commission. The technical term was engaged to wait. However, if he allowed us to freely roam about while we waited for calls, we were not entitled to hourly wages and we were therefore considered waiting to be engaged. I never mentioned this to him, but I did start taking note of my time. Another month or so goes by and he decided to start coming down on me for tiny little BS. Things that ordinarily would not even matter, such as I forgot a pop can in the cup holder. He actually had a screaming fit about that. At this point I was tired of working there and had already found another job, so I decided it was time to put my plan into motion. I called him up and told him that we needed to have a conversation about my final wages and that we could meet at his convenience. Upon entering the office, I laid out my argument, explained the state law, and told him that I expected to be paid for the hours that I was on the clock, but not freely allowed to roam looking for work or able to do things of my choosing. He told me in no uncertain terms would not be paid for that time, as that was agreed to upon my employment. I did not bother to argue, as I already had my next step planned, so I took my final check and I left. The following Monday, I made a phone call to the State Labor Board where I laid out my case to them. Needless to say, they were very interested in what was going on. In the end, they came to review his employment records and speak to the drivers still working. When he got the bill of what he had to pay us all, it was too much for him to afford, so he sold the trucks, his boat and a lot and went out of business. I never got the money owed to me in full, only a fraction, but the satisfaction of knowing the law just a little better than he did and watching it all burn was just pure bliss. And the next story is titled Neighbor Parking Spot. So I live in a small complex with a communal parking lot, no reserved spaces. On my wife's birthday, she invited a friend over to go out celebrating. When her friend showed up, there happened to be a tree that had fallen in the lot and blocked half of it off while it was being cleared. The only spot she could get to was one of the 2 disabled spots in the lot. Not a problem, since she had a valid handicap tag which was displayed. She asked when she came in if it was okay for her to park there, and I said it was fine since she was legally allowed to and the only person in the complex to use the spots could park in the next spot. We got ready to go out, and when I went to get my car, I noticed the car that usually parked in the disabled spot had parked directly behind our friend, blocking her in, and left the other disabled spot empty. I told the apartment manager to please have her move her car by morning. We went out for a nice night of clubbing and got home at 3 AM. The car was still blocked in and the other disabled spot was still empty. So I called the police. They showed up, looked at the way she was parked and started laughing. Why didn't she just park in the next spot? I told him I didn't know and he said at 3:30 AM, well, let's go wake her up and ask. He did that cop knock on her door to wake her up and told her to move her car. She began yelling at him saying, "That's my spot and I'm teaching someone a lesson." He explained to her that it is not her personal spot and there was another one right next to it, even closer to her door. He told her to move the car immediately and to think about what she was gonna say next because she was close to going to jail. She moved the car and never spoke to me again. But she had also yelled at the apartment manager when he asked her to move it, and it turns out she was behind in her rent, so they started the eviction proceedings. The manager then paid me $150 to take her boxed up stuff and throw it in the building's dirty basement. And damn, ripe stars, I gotta say, that revenge story turned out more juicy than I actually expected at first. Please let me know in the comments what kind of revenge stories do you prefer the most. Is it petty, nuclear, pro, or even regular revenge? Let me know in the comments. Jealous Karen hired a tow company to steal my car and move it to a remote location. Maybe I am just out of the loop, or I think in an old-fashioned way, but I think the right response to being jealous is just quietly seething about it. Keep it to yourself, or maybe even tell a few friends about it. I guess if you're a jealous person and want a guide on the worst possible thing to do, you should keep reading, because that is exactly what my neighbor did. Trust me though, that if you follow her lead, you might find yourself extremely hated or maybe even in jail. I had been saving up for years to replace my old beat-up junker of a car with something nicer. Well, that day finally came and I came home riding in my gorgeous new sports car. Now, it was not like the most expensive car in the world or anything, but for where I live it was considered extremely nice and I knew it would turn some heads. I worked hard for it though, so I did not really care if I caused a few neighbors to be jealous of me for a little while. The most jealous person of all though was my neighbor, who for reasons I'm sure you can assume, I'm going to refer to as Karen for this story. Now, Karen was outside her house when I pulled up and parked my new car in the street in front of my house. Our neighborhood does not have driveways, so it is all street parking. Her mouth puckered like she had just swallowed an entire lemon once she saw it was mine, and I knew exactly why. She liked to have the best of everything, the best lawn, the best house, and of course the best car. While the first two are debatable, it was clear she did not have the best car anymore, and I assumed she was just going to have to deal with it. At worst, she would maybe say a nasty comment or two that I couldn't care less about, since I was used to her being like that. What I didn't expect was for how far she was going to take her jealousy until I went to go to work to find my car gone. I'm not gonna lie, I almost cried because my first instinct was that my car was stolen. My brand new baby that I spent all that time saving up for was just gone and I had no idea what to do about it. The street parking was legal, so the idea of being towed had not even crossed my mind a single time. It was not until I checked my cameras that I could just barely see that my car was being towed away. The camera was not really meant to see the street view, but there was one moment that I was able to see the name of the tow company and immediately looked it up for a phone number. Tow company, hello? Me? Yes, hello. I live at address, and you towed my car away last night even though I was parked legally. I would like to get my car back. Tow company, I'm sorry sir, I don't recall a tow in that area. Can I get a car description? I describe the car and even give my license plate number while I sit on hold for a while. Tow company, there is not a car here like that, so I think you're mistaken. Me? Wait, I have on camera one of your tow trucks taking my car away. Tow company, oh well, now that you mention it, I do see a note here in my computer. I can tell he is nervous and I'm getting really tired of whatever he is trying to pull, so I cut him off right there. Me? I want to know what happened to my car, and I want to know right now, or I'm going to be coming down there with the police. You towed me illegally and now claim that you don't even have the car? Tow company, alright. Through a very long and confusing conversation that is frankly too long to post all of it, I found out that the owner of the tow company is friends with Karen. She called him and convinced him to tow my car away from my house as some sort of sick jealousy revenge. Then, instead of bringing it to them, he towed it to the middle of nowhere so that Karen could come and take what she wanted from inside of my car. As you can probably guess, I was fuming by the end of the entire thing and hung up on the owner, telling him that I was going to be calling the police on all of them. I did just that, as well as getting a friend to drive me 30 miles away just to see my car, which was now dirty, broken into and stolen from. There was not much of value inside of the car, but she for some reason took my work stuff and even the spare tire from my trunk. I wish this story ended with finding out that she was on drugs or something, because then maybe some of this could make a little more sense to me. Anyway, the video was given to the police and the tow company owner sobbed and admitted to the entire thing, trying to throw Karen under the bus for all of this. I don't think he really grew a conscience, I just think he was terrified of going to jail of something. I was suing both of them for this and was mad that Karen was really only going to get in trouble for the things she stole from the car and a broken window. She did not physically tow it, so even though she was the mastermind behind the entire thing, it was mainly the tow company that was getting sued the harshest. They had to pay out fines to me and the city for what they did, but the results of the lawsuit were not the most satisfying parts of the story. Really, it was what happened after with both Karen and her friend. Obviously, everyone knew about this, and Karen was seen as the horrible human being she is and tried so hard to mask. I think she was also a little bit scared of me because when I see her, I give her a sharp glare and she looks away like she knows not to even try to mess with me again. As for the tow company, well, nobody in the neighborhood trusted them after what they did, and some of the local stores even switched to another company to do their towing. They went bankrupt pretty soon after, and now Karen was friends with the exact kind of person that she would always look down on. The saddest part, or the best depending on how you see the story, is that he was really her only friend, and I don't think he wants anything to do with her anymore. She ruined an entire business and got sued just because I bought a shiny new car and she was jealous. The next one is titled Revenge on a Bully. I worked at a small satellite office, 9 staffers of a much larger organization headquartered elsewhere. The place was a seething snake pit of office politics, and the parent organization was even worse. From the first day, everyone gossiped about everyone else to me, so I did not tell them anything I could avoid telling them, because I knew anything I said would be immediately told to everyone in the office and weaponized when they wanted to use it. I did assume anyone who spent 5 minutes with me would know or at least suspect that I am gay. I was 40-something, not married, not macho, etc. However, a trio of my women co-workers decided that since I was single and did not look like a player, I must be a virgin, and it was fun for them to try to make me blush. Thus, lots of sexual jokes and innuendo. Apparently, it was their job to tease me into, I'm not sure what. Go have intercourse with a woman? I would just walk away and never speak to them about anything not work-related and absolutely necessary. I had been there 8 months and knew I would not last a year. They decided to go full-on mean girls and file multiple complaints about me, but there was not anything to complain about that was an actual infraction. So eventually one of them lied to HR and said I called our boss the old "see you next Tuesday." Right, like I was stupid enough to say that to people who were making my life miserable and who would have instantly gone to our boss with it. One of the 3 women was named Shelley. I don't know if she is the one who made the initial accusation, but she and her 2 friends all lied to HR and said it happened in front of the 3 of them. I was fired for supposedly calling our boss that bad word, and along with a lot of self-righteous anger about it all, I got a better job and moved on. A few years later on Christmas Eve, I was in the post office and someone called my name. I turned to look, and for some reason, when I saw her face, I exclaimed, "Darlene!" like it was someone I was thrilled to see. I don't even know anyone named Darlene, have never ever known anyone named Darlene, and I have no idea why I called her that, but then I said, "No, that's not right." She looked like I had thrown water in her face and said, "Shelley." I said, "Oh right, Shelley, I'm so glad to see you because I need to thank you and everyone back there. Because of all the lies you told and the nasty things you did to me to get me fired, this turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. I have a great job now with people I love and I make a ton more money, and it's all thanks to you and everyone there." She suddenly looked like she had bitten into a lemon and said, "Well, you have a Merry Christmas." And I walked away. Second edit, I just remembered a small detail. You can imagine in a crowded post office on Christmas Eve when a gay man exclaims, "Darlene!" All heads turned to look. It was a small post office, but there were still around 10 or 12 people watching while she corrected her name, and I called her a liar who got me fired. Remembering it made me laugh, and I have not even thought of that woman in 15 or so years. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I gotta say, that is really one of the huge benefits of being more or less self-employed. You don't really have to deal with any sort of toxic work environments, even though, I mean, sometimes YouTube can be toxic, but usually my community is pretty friendly and I don't really get any crazy hate comments or something. And even then, it probably still would not compare to a really toxic normal work office environment, because I did experience something similar in the past and I would never want to go back to that. Have you ever experienced any sort of toxic work environments? If you wish, feel free to share your own story either here in the comments or on r/ripe stories on Reddit. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to check out my playlists for more awesome videos. Also, if you haven't already, I would very much appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell to not miss any videos. Thank you so much. I will see you again tomorrow.